some educational, oops. Okay, so we'll put some education articles inside of here that will help you with each of these actions. So as I said, we only have 2 actions right now, property created and property field updated. We'll be adding task completed, task deleted, property contact added, property contact deleted, a slew of different actions. So just bear with us right now. We only have these 2. Okay. So the first thing I want to do in this is I want to go ahead and give this a title. So typically the title would be something around whatever action you're going to choose. So I'm going to say create a property in Google Sheets. So I'm just going to choose that. I'm going to choose the action, which will be property created. Now the thing that I need is I need to know where I'm sending this data. So if you think of a webhooks kind of like I'm the quarterback and I'm going to toss the data to some other application. So whenever I do something inside of here, I'm basically taking the football and throwing it downfield. So we need to know where we're going to post this, and they call it an endpoint. So we're going to take this data, we're going to package it up, the system will, and then it will send it off to whatever endpoint you want it to go to. So in this case, we're going to be sending it to Zapier. So inside of Zapier, we've got to configure this to be able to receive the package of data that we're sending to it. So Zapier has a really cool interface to do that. So basically you just click on Zaps. It's going to take you into any of the folders you have. So I have one here called Webhooks, and I have no Zaps in here. So let's go ahead and create one. All right. So inside of here, actually, let me get rid of this. That's really bizarre. I've never seen that. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to set up a trigger, and basically we're going to do webhooks by Zapier. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to catch a hook. So basically, just think of it, catch a football. We're going to catch some data, football data, a data that has everything that open to close is sending to Zapier. Now this is already pre-configured, so you don't have to configure the data object on open and close side. We do that for you, and then we send it over to Zapier, and that's where you get to configure how you want to store that data once it's received. So we're going to catch a hook, and what we want to do, I'm not sure why this says update to publish. Let me figure this out really quick, because I have a feeling like this is discard draft. Unless they must have just updated something last night on the interface, because that never used to be like that. Yeah, they must have. Okay, so let's name this property created. Must have done an update. Okay, so we're gonna webhook by Zapier. And what we're gonna do is we're going to choose an event, which is catch a hook. What we want to do is continue to the next thing, and this is pick off a child key. Now, a child key is, so like in a data object, there's like the key and the value pair. So key would be hello, the value would be world. So hello world. In the objects that we're sending, you may have the key is hello, and then it may have an array of data on the other side. And I'll show you once we get into this. But in this case, I don't typically recommend you pick off a child key in any of our webhooks, because we're going to send you an entire package of data. Now, keep in mind, it's really up to you. You can traverse through our data package however you want and be able to set it up however you want inside of your Zapier trigger here. So I'm not going to pick off a child key. Okay. So what Zapier is going to do is they're going to give you a URL. This is basically where we're passing the footballer data over into Zapier. So as you've seen over here, we need to know where we're sending the data. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in there, and we're going to submit this. Okay, so now we have an endpoint that we're going to throw some data to, and this is a property created. Now I'm going to send a test package of data over to Zapier, because right now Zapier doesn't have anything that's receives. It doesn't know how to split the data apart and know how to process that through the trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and send some data. And now I'm going to go ahead and test the trigger again. Okay, so they found a request. So basically open and close, sent a package of data down to it, and this is where the data ended up. So in this, you have key ID value is 1, 2, 3. You also have key field data, and then you have an array of data inside of here. So in that previous step, it said you want to pick off a key. You could pick off a key, and the key in this case would be field data, and here's all the data that you're going to process. Now, if you pick off a child key, you don't get any of this other information, which is a lot of information that you can also process through your trigger. So that's why I don't recommend picking off a key, just accept the whole thing. Now, of course, it's up to you, however you want to process it. All right, let's go to the next stage here. All right, so we caught a hook from open to close into Zapier, and now we need to know how we're going to process this through an action. So what I am going to do is I'm going to set it up through Google Sheets. All right, so inside of here, I've already authenticated my my Zapier account with Google Sheets, so I don't have to go through this. But in this case, if you hadn't done it yet, they would take you through an OAuth screen to say which account you want to set up for Google Sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and oops, I'm going to choose an event, and this is I'm going to write a spreadsheet row. All right, so now I need to pick the account, and now I'm going to continue. And now I'm going to choose which drive account I'm going to pop this into. So it's going to be my drive account, and I'm going to choose a spreadsheet called create. Now let me pause here, and I'm going to go over to that spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet set up inside of my Google Drive called create. And inside of here, I put headers. So address, city, state, zip, acceptance date, closing date. I can put anything I want in here. Because basically what I'm going to do is now I'm going to say when this goes through, I'm going to map the data that came out of open to close to this action, and now this action is going to write over into that spreadsheet. Okay, now I want this to go to worksheet sheet 1, which is on here. And we're going to go ahead and start mapping our data. Okay, so we went to Google Drive, create sheet 1, and now I'm going to go ahead and set up all these fields. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind when you're going through here is if you type something here, it's going to pin that to whatever data came into that field. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. If you're going to search for address, search down here, not up there. So I'm going to do address. Now, if I were to type in here, now that would append it. If I added that to the beginning, it would prepend it. So just keep that in mind that unless you don't want something prepended or appended, don't put any text up in here. Okay, close that. Let's do property city. Date and closing. Okay, cool. So we have that all set up. So basically, open and close, and a package to Zapier. Zapier processes the trigger handed off to an action. The action is now going to write it over inside of Google Sheets once we hit test and continue. And if everything went well, we should see a row that got written to my Google Sheet. So just like that, we set up a hook. I'm going to go ahead and retest it just to make sure. Okay, you can see it wrote it. All right, so now at this point, we're done with that. Now we just need to publish it because open and close can't write to it yet because basically Zapier is going to hold it and say, hey, we're not published yet. We can't actually do this from an application to application. So go ahead and publish the Zap. Okay, so now it's set up. Now let's go over into open to close and let's go ahead and create a property. We will do test court. We'll do one buying team. Okay. So in this, the only fields that I'm going to be able to write are address, city, state, zip, acceptance date, and closing date. So I'm not going to fill out anything else other than those two fields and closing date. Now, keep in mind, you can set up whatever you want, however your fields are mapped. And that's what's cool about that initial stage where you're sending the test data over. That's basically going to send all your fields over to Zapier so that Zapier knows how to catch those fields. And then if there's data inside of them, it will write it to the spreadsheet. So let your mind go wild, whatever you want to send over.
Yeah, just to kind of interject here, Shane, just for people that are on here and like, oh my gosh, this is a lot to learn. There are contractors that we'll be recommending in the future for you guys so that you guys can just tell them, hey, I want to connect this program to this program, and this is the data I want to go over, and they'll be able to handle that intermediary part for you.
Yep, good suggestion. Okay, so as you saw, once I created that, you can see here that it put it inside of Google Sheets. Now, the cool thing about this is once it's in Google Sheets, you can also edit this Zap and you can set up other actions such as write this to follow-up boss, send this over to Seer Interactive, put it inside of whatever. I mean, Zapier has hundreds of thousands of different zaps that you can set up. So really, you can do anything you want with it after it's in that spreadsheet. Now, keep in mind, I only set it up in a spreadsheet because that's how I like to process it, because then I have a reference of that record being written. Now, you can go directly from the webhook directly into a CRM or whatever you want. I'm just storing it here because I like to have that record. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that out. Now, what we want to do, so we have that property, right? I'm actually not going to work on this one. I'm going to work on another one because I want you to see the power of updating different fields inside of here. So now I set up another spreadsheet and it has these header columns in it. You can set up however you want. We do recommend these headers though, because this is the data that's going to be passed back with that field. So I'll show you why these headers are important. So let's go back over into Webhooks. And let's go ahead and create a new one. We'll call this update log property field update in Google Sheets. All right, choose field update. Now we need to go through the same steps again inside of here. And I'm going to go ahead, click on Webhooks, create a Zap. And we're going to choose Webhooks by Zapier, and it does require premium. We're going to catch a hook. Now, in the same case, I don't recommend peeling off a child key, but it's up to you. Okay, there's my endpoint. Okay. Okay, so in this case, we need to send some test data. Let's test it, make sure it received it. Okay, it did. So here is the values that come over. So now on that sheet over here, you'll notice it says property underscore ID. You could make that say whatever. I just like to map it directly to what the key is. So basically this is the key, and then we're going to write all of our values down there. So key value. All right. Next thing I want to do is set up my Google Sheet. Okay, I'm going to continue here. Let's set up our action. Go to Google Drive. We're going to choose the spreadsheet called update. I'm going to choose the worksheet number 1. Okay, now again, if you type something in there and then choose that, it's going to append it. So just make sure you're aware that you're doing that. So property ID, we're going to go to address. We're going to do field. Key. Let's go type. Value. Start time and end time. Now let me explain these two. So if it is a date field that's being posted over into Zapier and written to the Google Sheet, and there is a time on it, it will also put the time such as 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So this basically accounts for every field inside of open to close, depending whether it's a text field, text area, choice, number, decimal, or date. So everything is accounted for as it writes over. So let's go ahead and hit continue.
Quick question with that, Shane, actually.
Sure.
Just because it does help with Zapier knowing the time zone. Does that carry over from the account to the webhook, the time zone you have set?
Oh, that's a good point. No, it doesn't, but actually we could probably do that. We can add that as well. So we'll probably add one here called time zone. So that way, if it is a field value of date, we can also get time zone. Now that would be the time zone that's set up specifically for that property. Okay, good question, Deanna. All right, so as you saw there, I tested that out. Let's retest it. You'll see here that it writes the property value. Okay, cool. So now that is set up. Let's go ahead and publish it. All right, it's published. And now I'm going to go back into that other property here. Now, you'll notice here that inspection contingency has, it's contingent upon the contract acceptance date. So if I update the contract acceptance date, watch what happens here. So I'm going to change this to the 10th. Update. Now it's going through and it's going to write all my fields, and it's going to write all those because all those were updated. So if I update one, if there's contingencies that trickle down through that, it will also update all those to the spreadsheet as well. Now, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that Zapier does consider each of those rights as an event. So depending on the plan that you're on, you could burn through a lot of events really quick. And Janet, do you know what the pricing plan is for Zapier regarding how many events you can write?
Yeah, so they've done some tweaks to that. I would always try and double check just in case you have one of their grandfathered accounts. But with their free plan, you'll have 100 tasks per month. A task in Zapier means an action being used. And so if you have 2 steps or 2 actions in your Zap, that's 2 tasks being used each time that goes through. From there, you have the starter plan, which bumps you up to 750 tasks a month, which is generally a pretty good number to start with.
Yeah, so the one thing that we're going to end up doing here before our full release on this is actually putting a W icon on here. So that will be in reference to webhooks. So you may only want to webhook the contract acceptance date to be written and none of the others. So we're going to put some filtering around that so that, you know, it doesn't cascade down like that unless you want it to cascade down, because as she said, like every task is, it does count against your monthly usage. So,
and you know, another option for people just to throw out there is you may want to go with a company like Osiris that has a corporate account, and they'll house your Zaps on their site. So you won't even have to have a Zapier account to do it. I haven't spoken to them about how much they want to be involved in this yet, but I will be. And but it's a good option. osirs.co.
Yeah, good suggestion. Okay.
Can I also throw out one more option there too, just for a quick workaround in Zapier? You can throw on a filter to your Zaps. That way you can somewhat control when you're actually going to be using your actions. So let's say you only want it to trigger or pass through when the contract acceptance date field is being updated. That may keep you down in a lower task usage.
Yeah, good suggestion. So that's basically it for our create and update webhooks. Now, as I said, we will be adding more, such as task added, task deleted, task updated, document uploaded, the actual link back to the file. So fundamentally, everything inside of Open to Close will start to become a webhook that you can catch and then send that data on. But as is right now, we just have the 2 just because we're in beta right now. But as we get going more and more throughout the year, we'll start sending all of those webhooks through the system. So, all right, let's go ahead and open this up for Q&A, and yeah. Do we have any questions, Andrew?
I'm sorry, I'm sitting here talking to myself. I was on mute. Yeah, we had a couple questions. We've answered them all. What's the ETA on this release? My answer was we're going to have a beta on this for probably 2 to 3 weeks. Do you have any? You want to say anything more on that?
No, I mean, we can start putting people on beta. We already have 3, I think, right now. But if it's something that you want to, if you need inside your account, yeah, let's just open up for beta. Now, we're still determining the resources that are going to be allocated on each plan. So as we work through the beta, we'll have more and more information on that.
Okay. The other question came from Brian, and he just wanted to know, is there going to be a Zapier integration? Is there going to be an actual app on Zapier? I said, probably not anytime soon. You can just use the webhooks and directly through the API to do everything you need on Zapier, but we'll probably look into that maybe, 6 to 9 months from now. We'll take a look and see if that's something we want to pursue.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Here's the hard thing about it, and maybe it's my limited knowledge around it, is that, and maybe Jenny, you can speak to this, is that it's easy for us to set up apps on Zapier when we're not pushing dynamic data. But as you can see, like my fields inside this account probably 100% different than the fields that you have inside your account. So nothing that would go through that would be directly correlated to your account. So it's a little hard when we send dynamic data, and that's, you know, it's the blessing and the curse of open to close, is that you can fundamentally create whatever you want through it. It's just hard when it comes down to setting up structured, you know, components such as a Zap. So we'll be looking into that more, but as it is right now, we're just running strictly as webhooks.
You know, Shane, too, we don't have any more questions, but at the beginning of this, I was totally off. I was thinking that we were doing our meeting yesterday when we went over DocuSign and webhooks, and I kind of teased that DocuSign was ready and that we would show them that. Do we have time to kind of get into that and show them a sneak peek of what we've done with DocuSign?
Yeah, totally. Let me answer this question really quick on the Q&A from Lauren Nowak. Would we use webhooks for a Cognito to OTC, or will there be a separate integration? No, you wouldn't use a webhook coming. Well, I guess you could. You could take the data coming out of Cognito. I'm sure they have an endpoint that you can post to. You would most likely post to our API. So fundamentally, you would send that data down, you would generate an API token and go through the authentication like this. And then you would post that data in as a post property. And this is where you would compile it and then send it in as a webhook going into open close. But you would set that webhook up over inside of Cognito, not inside of open to close. Now, open to close is the endpoint that you're posting to.
Yeah. Here's the caveat to that, Lauren. You're going to have to be on our highest plan, which we're going to re-release our plans. They're going to have new names. It's going to be the Pro, the Grow, and the Scale plans. It's going to replace the premium add-on, and the Pro. We just had a lot of confusion around our plan, so we're going to kind of clean that up a little bit and make it really easy to understand what comes on each plan. But in order to bring, so say you're going to use a Cognito form, and you're going to bring that data over to open to close. Once it comes into open to close, all the fields will come in, but you're going to need post-processing on those triggers. So you're going to need our highest upgrade plan so that you can say, you can have the same triggers that are in the intake form after the fact in a transaction. So after the fact, you can say, if this is yes, then add this field template, add this task template, add this document template. So there is a little bit of caveat. If you do want to use your own forms, you are going to have to be on our scale plan.
Yeah. Okay. When you say it can webhook to any program, does that receive? Yeah. So CT would need that. Oh, looks like Jan is answering. Okay. I'll dig into. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to see if I could actually answer that one live. CTE, I believe, is Excel, if I recall correctly, with where they're tracking things. And so you would just use your Excel app and Zapier as your action event to push that data to.
Yep. And then you'll just have to designate what sheet. So CTE is pretty massive program as far as the number of sheets in that. So you're going to have to designate what sheet, what cell, all that. And, you know, if you talk to a professional, they'll be able to do that pretty easy for you.
All right, let's dig into some DocuSign here. So open to close, as you can see here, we're getting ready to release DocuSign. DocuSign, you will have multiple profiles that you can connect to it. So you can connect your main profile, and then you can connect all your agent profiles if that's what you need. Now, we're still working out the resources on this, which will be allotted to each plan. So during beta, I think we're going to open up to everything, but after beta, after we determine what the resources are, it may be limited. So, all right, let me walk through this just as a full stack plan here. So I've already connected a few profiles, and I'm going to go ahead and add another one. So let's go ahead and set this one up, and I'm going to click this. Okay, so the most important thing to know about setting up DocuSign with multiple profiles is that when they send back the authentication saying, hey, we've connected, we literally have no clue on our end who that profile goes to. So this integration is a little bit different in the way that it steps through things, and I'll show you here. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're not logged into DocuSign if you're adding another connection. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm not logged in, which that looks right. And if I'm not logged in, then I can go ahead and continue. So I'm going to close that tab. Because if you're logged in already, it's going to automatically send you back and create another profile. And it's going to keep doing that figure 8 until you've added 100 profiles, because it just keeps saying, yep, you're authenticated. Yep, you're authenticated. So let me go ahead and set this up. Okay, so once the connection's successful, what it's going to do is bring you back here to name your DocuSign profile. And we're just going to call this, we'll call it Stewie. All right, once that's done, it's going to say it updated it successfully. And now we're going back into DocuSign. So if we look at our profiles now, we should have Stewie, we'll just call him Stewie. Okay, so now our DocuSign profile is set up. Now we can go into a property. We can go down to the defaults and settings. Now keep in mind on this, it's going to have your default DocuSign profile, and it's going to show all the profiles that are related back to whomever the transaction is assigned to. So in this case, if we look at access, this property is assigned to Adam West. So Adam West is the person whose profiles we will only see inside of here. I can't pull any other user unless I switch who this property is assigned to. So let's go ahead and we're going to choose, the default is Stewie. Okay, so now if I go into documents here, I can click on any of the documents that I want to add to this envelope. I'm just going to choose this dummy one. Let me go ahead and do DocuSign. And what that's going to do is actually pull up, it's going to tell me what profile is defaulted to. Now, if I can change this on the fly if I want, I'm like, oh shoot, it should have been SpongeBob. But let's just do that. The envelope name, let's go ahead. I'm just going to call this the, our keyboard stop working. So I'm going to call this the address. So it defaults to the address, and then you can append it with whatever else you want it to be. All right, we're adding this dummy document, and I'm going to go ahead and I need to get out of this because I don't have me on there. Let's go through all that again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this the. I'm going to add me onto it. Now I can select all these people if I want, and I can also adjust the order that it will go once it hits DocuSign. And I can do the same thing with documents. So if I had 10 documents, I can reassign the signing order in which they will go into DocuSign.
Can you add a couple of people and we'll just delete them when we get over to DocuSign so they can see that they come in order?
Let's go ahead and take those two. Okay, so this is one of the most important things here, CC property email address. So signed documents will automatically be imported into this property when signatures are completed. So once everybody has signed them, it's going to go ahead and take all those documents and automatically send them right over to open to close inside your document section. So then you can process each of them individually.
Now, there is a limitation on that because DocuSign, as people that use DocuSign know, if the file is too big, it's going to send you a link instead of the actual attachment. So we do have something we'll show you here in a minute to alleviate that problem, but just be aware that you can't receive an email like in Google, let's say I think it's 25 megabytes. So if the attachments are more than 25 megabytes, you're going to have to do it a different way, which we'll show you.
Yeah. Okay, so I selected my one document, my 4 people. I've chosen yes on the property email address. And I can also set up reminders. So if number of days before sending the first reminder, so it'll be 2 days after I generate this package and send it over, or this envelope and send it over, and then it will keep reminding them every 2 days to like, hey, you got to sign this. So let's go ahead and build the envelope. Now this again is in beta, so I'm going to make sure nothing breaks here. Let's take a look. Oh, it did break. Gosh dang it. There's one weird thing going on with DocuSign where they say that there's a replication of people that are signing it. We're still trying to figure all that out. So I'm just going to do this. I don't know if we're going to get through this today, actually. Let me try 2 documents. Okay, looks like it built that. So sorry, Andrew, I'm not adding other people to this.
Yeah, no problem. All they would do is come in that same order. But the only thing I wanted to point out to everyone is if you do have a signing tree where you need it to go to the 2 buyers at the same time, you will have to edit the numbers in DocuSign. We're not able to do that in open to close yet. So if you have 5 people here and the first 2 are 1s and the second 2 are 2s, you will need to edit those in DocuSign. The other thing you'll need to edit in DocuSign is the templates. So if you want to add templates to documents, you have to do that once the envelope is built. We won't be able to do that over and open to close, at least yet. We just haven't found a way to do that with the API.
Yeah, so they could come in here like, so they may come in here like 1, 2, 3. And so once they come in, you can redo that there. And we found this really cool thing on the signing order. It actually shows you exactly how they're going to be sent as recipients.
Yeah, and normally if you did have this, oh, you have it in there, the CC came in. Okay, so there's the CC back to the property email address that automatically comes in if you check that box. That's going to be a huge time saver for things that are under that email limit, because now as soon as they sign, it's going to send back, and Shane will show you how it comes right back into the transaction automatically.
Yep, and you can obviously move these documents around. You basically have full functionality to edit this envelope before you send it off. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next on this because everything should be good. Okay, I'm not going to do any signature placements or whatever. I'm just going to send it off. Okay, so once it's sent off, now it routes back to open to close as a completed document, or actually it's a pre-completed document. And now if we went into here, we could click DocuSign and we would see, hey, we have one document here. And what this is going to do, it's going to give you the subject, the status, everything about it. Looks like I forgot to put RE10 on that. And it's going to give you the status of everybody that is that this has been sent to as someone to sign it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause my screen. I don't want you guys to all see my email. I'm going to grab that link and we're going to sign this document.
So what Shane is going to show us too is the ability to, when you're in that screen where those envelope screen, there's going to be, once it's signed, there's going to be a download button that pops up, and you're going to be able to download that directly back into open to close if it's too big to come to your email.
Yep. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and sign this as me.
Shane, if you don't want to sign it, you could actually just put CC and it'll just come right to your email without having to do anything.
I'm just going to litter this with a bunch of signatures. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and finish this up. And, oh, okay, so now it's been signed. And now we're going to wait here for a moment. So if you're working inside of open to close now and somebody signs it, DocuSign is now processing that on their side. And so you should see a notification each time somebody signs it, letting you know that, hey, this document has been signed. So we're just going to sit here for a moment and we should see it pop open. There we go. So that document, I'm sorry, that envelope, which if I would have put RE10 on it, it would say RE10, Shane Horner signature was completed. So I can close that. Now, if I went to documents, I should see my documents inside there. So there are, there's the one document that I'm pretty sure we signed. Yep, there it is. So now that it's inside of here, now I can go ahead and replace a document, move it as an additional document, do whatever I need to do in post-processing.
If you have your file roles set up already in your templates, just go ahead and put it in the placeholder that you want it. And now it's going to automatically assign that file role to it. And you don't have to do anything else. You just put it in the right placeholder, say approve. It's going to pop in there, and now it's going to look for all the automation in your system that might need to go out based on that condition that counteroffer number 3 exists or doesn't exist in property.
Yeah, so now we moved it. Yeah, so now we can make this, move it to, actually won't go through all that. Okay, so now let's say that the document was way too big to import, and you got a message from DocuSign saying, hey, your documents are ready. You can go into DocuSign and download them and move them over. Or you can just click on this envelope and it should give you a completed yes. And if it does say yes, it will actually give you a download documents link here. Now, this will compile all of the documents into one. We are looking for a way to actually split those apart as they come in so that they are each their own individual documents. So I'm going to go ahead and download them all right now. Okay, so now if we go back over to documents, I should see them as a compiled package. So now I think in this case I only had, oh, I did have multiple documents inside here.
Yeah,
So
you don't have to worry about that if it's a small size, because just put the CC on, it'll come over automatically. But if it's that big size that doesn't attach them, that's where you're going to have to download it through here. Now, if you want the individual docs, you're going to have to go over to DocuSign and download them, because we just haven't figured out that functionality yet, but we are going to take a look.
let's go ahead and just add it into, Just add it as. Actually, I'm not going to go through that. So anyways, you can split those up too. So you can start looking at your documents and determine what needs to be split out. So, all right. And that's basically DocuSign in a nutshell. This is obviously our V1 of this, but we will be adding more and more features to this, more automation around it, more notifications, so on and so forth. But this will be our V1, and we're rolling this out in beta sometime this month as well. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and just ping our customer support team or Andrew, and we can get you added to that plan. All right, let's go ahead and take some Q&A on that as well.
Yeah, I think there weren't too many questions on that. Got a lot of positive feedback in the chat. Jenny already texted me, I want to test DocuSign. So getting some people interested. So definitely send those to help@opentoclose.com just so I can keep that organized and add all the right people. Try not to either text or message me on Facebook because I will forget.
Cool. We want to wait here for a moment, or?
Yeah, let's give them a couple seconds just to answer any questions on DocuSign, positive, negative. Give us any feedback you can. It's still in beta, so we're making changes to it now. So any of your feedback, any of the feedback that you give us now may be considered for the final version in a few weeks. So we love the feedback because it's less that we have to change in the future. We'd love to get it, you know, to 80–90% on the first run. And we'll just give everyone about 2–3 minutes. If no one asks a question, and oh, here we go. I missed what you said. You had to be on for webhooks. So webhooks are going to be, so we don't have a final plan for what plan everything is on and what the limitations are. But what we're thinking is it's probably going to be a limited access on the $99 upgrade. So right now that's the premium add-on. You're going to have access to it, but you won't have unlimited access. Now, if you're on the scale plan, you're going to have unlimited access to anything we put out in the future. So, but it'll probably start on the what we're going to call the Grow plan, which is the add-on plan for the premium right now. So the $99 upgrade, that's where you're going to see, you know, DocuSign and webhooks, but a limited amount of accounts, a limited amount of webhooks, a limited amount of DocuSign accounts that you can log into.
Yep.
Okay. What do you see the webhooks being used for the most? You know, for me, I'm really excited to get into DataBox and Gecko Board and some of these reporting programs and start playing around with it so I can send over all the data to whatever reporting program that I want to. And then you can parse that data over there into cool graphics that fit your team. So you're not going to a program that's kind of a one-size-fits-all. Stats, you can actually create your own stats of what's important to you and your team for team meetings. And you can have different boards that you pull up with relevant data for whatever meeting you're in, whether that's a manager's meeting, whether that's an agent meeting, whether that's a, you know, TC agency meeting. That's what I'm most excited about. But honestly, you could use it for CRMs is going to be huge to be able to get that data over to your CRM so that your agents can see what's happening in the transaction without you having to constantly update them. Yeah, stats and CRMs are probably the two big ones, but honestly, sky's the limit. Oh, I know. QuickBooks. QuickBooks is going to be a heavily used one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Can we set up one DocuSign account for multiple OTC users? Yes, you can. Now, on the flip side, if you want to add multiple DocuSign accounts, if you're a TC agency and you're working with, you know, 50 different agents and you want 50 different accounts in there, you're going to have to be on our scale plan to be able to do that. If you want, we haven't decided the actual number. We have to just look at the costs and what everything entails, but I think it's probably going to be one or two accounts that you get with the $99 plan. So with DocuSign, I have the option to add a contact as a role within the envelope to auto-populate that contact to the signature. Can this be possible with the OTC? Okay, so let me reread that. So with the DocuSign now, I have the option to add a contact as a role within the envelope. No roles on it at this time in ours, but like I said, this is version 1. Any suggestions that are going to make this better, submit them to help@opentoclose.com, and we'll take a look at what we can do to improve upon this. I might have missed it when initially setting up the DocuSign and you go into DocuSign, do you add the signing fields there? Make signing fields. Signing fields assigned. Yes, you do. You do everything over in DocuSign. So you're gonna, the only thing you're doing over in open to close is saying what documents, what people, do you want the documents to come back into open to close? And then how often do you want to remind them? Those are the pieces of the open to close puzzle. Once you build that envelope, then it's just like you were in DocuSign building it. It's just gonna save you a step of having to go and open it up, put all those people in, download, upload the documents, those sort of things. So
You want to hit on templates at all, Andrew?
Yeah, so templates, like we couldn't find a way to do it through the API where you're going to assign templates. But if you're using DocuSign heavily, you probably already know that it's a huge advantage to go in and add your templates for all those documents that you use throughout the transaction. That way, when these documents come over, you can just hit use a template, grab, 2 buyers signing a buyer contingency, 1 seller signing a buyer contingency, whatever that is. You can just select that template and it's automatically going to throw in all the signatures and initials in the right place for you. So you're not having to reproduce that work every single time. So using templates in DocuSign is huge. You should be doing that. If you're using DocuSign more than, a couple times a week, you should be using templates. It's worth the investment.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? Can you correct the envelope through open to close? No, you cannot. If you make a mistake, you need to correct it, you are going to have to log in. But hopefully that's only, 5% of your DocuSigns or less than 5% of your DocuSigns. So we can look at that in the future, send in a feature request and we'll take a look and see if that's something that's available in the API.
Yeah.
And that is it. We'll give you another 30 seconds to get any questions up that you didn't ask. Hopefully everyone found this useful. I think these two, of all the features we've pushed out in the recent history, I think these two are probably going to make the most impact in a business on automation and just being able to share that data with different programs.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. You're on the document page and drag and drop where the signatures go. I didn't see that. No, Shane did show it, but it was really brief. All you have to do is once you're through that signing page on DocuSign and you hit next, it's going to go over to the doc. Yeah, there you go. And then you can just drag and drop whatever you need in. Now, if it's a document that you're using all the time, like a addenda of some sort, or the purchase contract or whatever, you should already have this template set up so that you can assign it in the previous page. And then all the signatures and initials and text boxes and all that just come in naturally without you having to do anything at all. All right. Looks clean. No more questions. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for attending. If you want to be on the beta for one or both of these, let me know. We do have a beta group already, but I do have room for maybe 1 or 2 more on the webhooks, and on DocuSign, I have quite a few slots on there. So if you're a power user and you're going to use it, we are going to require that you give us feedback at least once a week. We are going to require that you do not go on social media to discuss the beta and just send us your feedback so we can make it better before it goes out to everyone. We don't need to see this posted up on 50 different sites about why this doesn't work right or why that doesn't work right. We want to keep all that in-house until we get a final product that we can release to the masses. So if you want to be on the beta, send me an email to help@opentoclose.com and we will try to get everyone accommodated. Shane, Matthew, Jana, you have anything else?
I don't think so. Yeah. Thank you guys for supporting Open and Close. Like, we couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Likewise. Let us know if there's any questions as you guys are implementing too on this. Feel free to reach out. We are here to help.
Yeah, I will really stress that the beta, whoever does get onto that beta, that feedback is going to be invaluable. So we do appreciate all that information as well.
Yeah, productive comments only, please.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for everyone that presented today, everyone that was involved. Thank you to everyone that attended. Like Shane said, we really appreciate your support. We couldn't have done this without you, and hopefully you enjoy these 2 features. So we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thank you guys.